Good afternoon. It's Saturday, May 22nd, 1 o'clock, and we're going to begin the next training that we provide on Saturday. Western Liberty Network offers these trainings every week at 1 o'clock on different topics, sometimes with guest trainers, and we will be having some really good guest trainers coming up in the following weeks. My name again is Richard Burke. I'm the Executive Director of Western Liberty Network, and Western Liberty Network is an organization consisting of myself, a board of directors, an advisory committee, and numerous volunteer trainers. Our purpose is to help activists reweave the fabric of our political culture by empowering them to take control over their own governance. Western Liberty Network does this by building farm teams of trained local, nonpartisan activists who are lobbyists, office holders, and campaign volunteers. WLN trains activists who in turn use their training for the campaigns and causes that they care about. If you would like to support Western Liberty Network, simply go to the www.westernlibertynetwork.org website and go to the support tab. All contributions for Western Liberty Network are fully tax deductible. Really quickly, I will go through the screen. I will go through the screen sharing here. And you will see the Western Liberty Network website. This always gives you the latest information. And I want to point out to everyone who may be watching this recording that if you go to the training tab, you will see this. Scroll down, you'll be able to download a variety of our training documents. And you can see recordings of our various Saturday training sessions. And again, if you'd like to support Western Liberty Network, go to the support page and you'll be able to make one-time or recurring contributions. Now today, we're going to be talking about this document. This document is the advanced lobbying training document. We'll be going through a little bit later. And for those of you who are watching the recording, you can download this sheet where it's indicated next to the recording. So with that, we're going to stop the sharing and we're going to begin doing the training. We have a beginning lobbying class that talks about the nuts and bolts of making an appointment, how to conduct yourself when you're with a legislator. And this isn't just for state representatives. This can be for local city council officials. It can be for bureaucrats that you're having to deal with. It can also be for county commissioners or anyone that you want to persuade. And so in the beginning document, we talk a lot about how to make an appointment, how to conduct yourself at that appointment, how to ask the questions which help you make the sale, and basic things like that. This is about dealing with the legislators themselves and trying to deal with what may be going on in their minds, looking at lobbying from their perspective and how you can increase your chances of getting a legislator to do what you want by looking at it through their eyes. Their interests are not always in the best interests of civics. Sometimes they are, but we're going to be dealing with all of that. Now, if a lobbyist doesn't know you, when you get that appointment, and I encourage people to look at the beginning lobbyist training video and document as a prerequisite to this or to review. But when you first meet a legislator, what should go on in their minds is, oh, here is a constituent or here is an interested person. They are bringing me a good idea that can help me do better civics. This is, I can't wait to hear what their idea is. That's how they should think. But sometimes what they're thinking is, who is this person? Are they a potential asset to my reelection? Are they a potential threat to my reelection? Do I need to bring this person close or do I need to marginalize this person? Should I get rid of them quickly or should I listen to what they have to say? How important are they in their communities? How many people do they know? How much impact do they have as a local opinion leader? These are the first things that are going on in a legislator's mind. And, by conducting yourself as discussed in the earlier lobbying course, you can put their minds at ease that you're not a nut, that you're a reasonable person, that you're a responsible person. And that goes a long way toward helping that legislator be a lot more at ease and willing to listen to what you have to say. Let me ask you, Carolyn, have you ever lobbied a legislator before? Or a city council person or a county commissioner?
Yes, just recently, David Gomberg, our House representative out here on the coast, for the gun control bill that was taking place, there was myself and then I think 2 other people. We had a meeting set up. It was through Zoom, and Rep. Gomberg and his staff gave us, I think, about 30 minutes of his time, and we kind of went around in a round robin type way and explained to him, you know, we're all CHL holders and just what the impact of this gun control bill would have on us. And we were really pleased. He was open-minded. He listened. He actually seemed to be persuaded, and he in fact did vote against the passage of that bill in the House. Unfortunately, it became like a super bill and it moved on and went on. But both himself and I believe Senator Betsy Johnson, the Coastal Caucus, they heard what we had to say and listened to us as constituents. So it was a very good first time experience for me lobbying, you know, one of our reps.
Right. Well, that's a very good experience, and congratulations on apparently achieving some success there. Did the legislator know you beforehand?
I think so, or he said he knew me. I had previously asked a question that was directed through one of our local town halls with let's see, Senator Anderson and Dave Gomberg. They held a joint meeting together at the community college, and so they were taking questions. So I had addressed him with one of the questions before, and then I had previously run for a local office here in town. So I think he was aware who I was.
Well, that's good. That helps. The first time is always the hardest when you're trying to size each other up and build a relationship. And if you've got that relationship and, you know, already under your belt, it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
And so you probably know some of the things I'm talking about. You know, Betsy Johnson is a legislator who is very savvy politically, very smart in the legislature. She's interested in doing good civics, but she's also a very smart politician, I'm sure, which I'm sure you know. And that's one thing that a lot of people forget. A lot of people forget that the public officials that they lobby are not just these figures or these units that hold positions in government. You know, they're human beings with lots of, oh, we have another person that just came in. Yeah, Kathy, hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Yep. And these are people that have egos, hopes, fears, strengths, weaknesses that everybody else has. Like any person, they're going to have reactions when you care passionately about an issue, and they are going to consider their position. They may think to themselves, boy, I really like their idea, but am I willing to die on this hill? If I vote this way, I'm going to lose friends. I might lose contributors. I might lose volunteers, especially if it gets picked up in the paper. If I don't, I might have other problems. I might have other enemies. This is the calculus that's going on in the minds of most legislators, not all, but most legislators, when you're asking them to do something that they would not normally do. Like in the case of a Democrat who might typically support gun control law, and Carolyn, as you described, lobbying your legislator to vote against that thing. I guarantee you that the legislator is doing a lot of calculus and weighing how passionate they feel about an issue, weighing how you and other constituents feel about the issue, and also feeling, you know, pressure from their caucus and the donors that the caucus brings with them and the support that the caucus brings with them. You know, it's a big deal, and you've got to bear this in mind. And if you bear this in mind, it can help you fine tune the pitch that you make to that legislator. You know, again, I would agree with you that ideologically, none of these things should matter. Whether or not something you ask them to do would help or hurt their reelection should have nothing to do with their decision. Their decisions ideally would always be what is in the best interest of the public. But we know, again, and the main lesson of this training is that many legislators, maybe even most legislators and other public officials, will put their political interests ahead of the public good. They want to survive politically. They often justify this by saying, look, if I get kicked out of office, I'm not going to be able to do any good at all. I'd rather do some good and be in office, rather than have someone else take my space and do even less good. So I'll do the most good I can, but I want to survive politically so I can keep doing the good that I can do. That is the rationality, or that is the rationale that many of them use when faced in these situations. But when you lobby them, you've got to bear that in mind. If you ask them to do something that is going to be suicidal politically, you're probably wasting your time, unless they care so much about it, or they have a personal interest in something and they're willing to die on that hill. The only other good reason to talk to somebody who's diametrically opposed to something you want them to do is maybe they'll give you some insight into the arguments of the other side. In that case, I would simply just listen. But what you're going to do is you're going to go in and you're going to try to convince them that what you are asking them to do is the right thing. You're going to give them reasons why it is the right thing. And you're going to try to do what you can to let them know that in their district that there is a base of support for them doing the right thing, and that they will still be able to survive politically if they do the right thing. A lot of times, if they vote against a bill that passes, especially a big high-profile bill, they don't want to be on the losing side of that, because they lose prestige. And when they lose prestige, they lose influence. And when they lose influence, they lose the ability to convince fellow legislators to vote their way on other issues that are going to be coming up in the future. So a lot of times, if you're swimming upstream on a vote and you're asking someone who, might ordinarily be opposed to what you want them to do, you have to give them a very compelling reason and assure them and give them reasons why you think that they would be able to benefit politically or survive politically if they make the right decision. Are there any questions at this point? Are there any comments at this point? Well, let me ask you this. How do you folks feel about what I'm saying so far?
This is Carolyn. Actually, everything you're saying is exactly my experience. And, I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants the first time lobbying. I didn't really know what to expect, but I agree with you. You have to go in with some ideas about how it affects a bill, maybe the passage of a bill would affect you personally or individually, or friends or family or community members, and then give specific examples, because I think that's a persuasive argument. They know that you're coming in with some ideas, of thought. You're not just, some nutcase coming in just trying to, present an argument without really thinking it through. And I think that does have some weight with legislators. But boy, I did learn a lot. And like you said, they are juggling a lot of balls in the air and things that we don't even know about. So sometimes the way that they may vote seems very adverse, to the position that we may have when we lobby them. But then again, down the road, maybe there's a benefit. So we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but getting in front of your legislator, at least trying it one or two times, being respectful and professional, is always a good way. I think it gives a lot of merit to your argument.
Mm-hmm. Kathy, do you have thoughts about it? I saw your picture come on.
I agree with what you said. And I think for me, it was affirmation. It's things that I haven't had a lot of involvement, and I don't know how much in the future, but I care deeply about a lot of things that are going on. And I just thought it would be really helpful. Sometimes you feel like the thoughts and emotions are like flying like crazy, and you totally believe in clarity and respect and good presentation of your ideas. And that's what I was tuning in to try to get a gist from people who've done this already, ahead of time. And so it's very logical, and I think it's something that I've presumed is the way it is, or I've observed that from a distance that's what it is. But for me right now, that is an affirmation that we can't just sit and imagine things. We have to get involved and communicate and try to learn from each other, and how to do that in a respectful way that encourages listening, and that we don't just put defenses up and start this, battling isn't getting anywhere. And we need to find out what people's reasons are so we can communicate better. So I'm agreeing with what you're saying.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you guys are cognizing this, and I hope that folks listening to the recording of this are as well. One other thing too is that this is the next point that we bring up, is that even the good legislators don't want to tilt at windmills.
Mhm.
Sometimes if you have a good idea, but there isn't enough support for it to pass, it's worthy of doing because you can build momentum that can carry into the next legislative session. I remember once I worked on a fusion voting bill, and that's a bill that allows more than one political party to nominate the same person, to sort of fuse two parties to nominate. It took 3 sessions to get that. The first session, it was like, what, are you nuts? I don't understand this. The second one was more like, well, okay, but we got to bring everyone on board. And the third time, when it finally passes, when you got everyone on board. So if you are, trying to run lumber uphill or upstream, so to speak, it's worth it, even if you probably can't win, provided that you can have something from the legislative victory that will survive the session. And one of those things is momentum that will carry the idea farther in the next session. Inculcation is one of my favorite words. It's like slow, steady pressure. You're not pounding through all at once, slow, steady pressure. A lot of bills get passed through just inculcation. That said, if an idea is really out there, don't expect legislators to jump on board. They, it's interesting. It's like activists are the cutting edge of a political movement, and then, policy analysts, think tanks, they sort of say, okay, maybe they're a little goofy, the street activists, but they've got some ideas. Let's do some white papers and come up with some viable policy options. And then the politicians, then they are able to enact some of those ideas and put them into law. So the whole phrase of leading from behind is what politicians do. Don't ask politicians to be on the bleeding edge. Very few of them will want to, and the ones that do may make a lot of noise, but aren't necessarily very effective. AOC is a great example of that. She makes a lot of noise, but really, what has she passed? She hasn't passed, very much at all. Try to, when you have a strong change or something that goes against the stream of the party in power in the legislature, try to pass it a little bit at a time. Using a football analogy, maybe get 10 yards at a time instead of throw the long ball, because legislators don't like to tilt at windmills. The next thing you need to know is, if you are asking them to take a political risk, let them know that you have their back. They don't want to be out there by themselves. Even if they buy into your idea, if they think that they're going to be a lone voice in the wilderness, they're going to be a lot less likely to carry your message. So let them know that you have their back. One of the ways that you can do that is by letting the legislator you're lobbying know that there is a group of people that will testify at the hearings that will support that legislator in their decision to take a political risk. Let them know that you have a group, and if you don't have a group, get a group who is willing to call into talk radio shows and sing his praises or her praises for taking a political risk, and writing letters to the editor, doing the same thing, or participating in blogs or social media. If a legislator, you're asking them to take a political risk, and you let them know that you've got their back, they are going to be a lot more likely to take that risk than if they think they're going to be a lone voice in the wilderness. Another thing you can do, particularly with legislators that are in the party opposite of the one that you support, is you can find, research what other bills they're signed on to or support as a sponsor or a co-sponsor, or maybe a bill they've just been quoted in the paper is supporting. Out of all the bills, I think in the Oregon legislature this year, there are over 4,000 bills that were initially introduced. There are probably a few that you will agree with, even with, legislators who are ideologically diametrically opposed to you. There are probably still, out of the thousands of bills, a few that you can go along with, that you agree with. If you can find any bills like that, then another thing you can tell the legislator is that you not only have their back on the bill you're supporting or opposing, but you will also mobilize people to testify in favor of the bills that you agree on. If you do this, the legislator is going to say, well, you know what? I could use their help on this bill. I could use their help on that bill. I think this is not likely to pass, or I may not likely be able to get this through, but maybe if I carry some water for them, they'll carry some water for me. And again, that isn't how civics should work, but that's how civics often works. One time after I was a legislative aide at the Capitol, I was briefly asked to provide tours to the Capitol for students who wanted to know how bills were passed. And I, was dismissed from that particular job because I departed from the script. And, you're supposed to say, okay, a bill gets introduced here, it gets to a committee, 1, 2, 3, I'm just a bill, I'm only a bill. But the first thing I started with is, who here knows how to play poker, right? And a few hands went up and the teachers got a little nervous. And I said, one thing about poker is that there is a rule. There are rules about how the game is played. This hand beats that hand, and that hand beats this other hand, and you can go according to that. But the rules itself doesn't really have much to do with how the game is actually played. And I talked about, pretending you had a strong hand when you didn't, and bluffing, and all of these other things. And this is often how a bill is passed in the legislature. Sometimes, it goes by the numbers, but often, particularly with bills that, have a lot at stake, there are other questions. What private interests are supporting it? Who are they, giving money to? Who alienates who, and who isolates who if they vote this way or that way? It's a game that determines how bills are passed or not passed, which has little to do with the mechanics of it. And when you understand that, that's when you're involved in advanced lobbying. You do want to go by the numbers. You do want to encourage people to do good civics. I know that all the citizen activists I deal with want to do good civics, but if you want to be politically effective, you have to be able to accommodate the interests of those who actually vote, that have the power. And you've got to let them know that you have their back if they take a political risk, that they will politically survive if they take your side in a controversial issue, and that you will be there for other things that you agree on, that you can build coalitions on. That is gold to a politician, and will be very, very helpful. Protect the status of your friends. I have here in politics, perceptions often become a reality. If someone is perceived to be effective, they become effective. If they're perceived to be ineffective, they become ineffective. It's strange, but that's the way it is. Sometimes reputations are deserved, sometimes not. Over time, the truth usually comes out, but frequently not in time to prevent political damage or save or kill a specific proposals. Legislators often affect other legislators. And so, once again, I will sort of repeat myself, but from another angle. in that you have to have something of political value for the legislator to act as, a cushion in case the bill fails. Something that will ensure that they have the ability to maintain their influence with other legislators, that they have the ability to get reelected. So, you have to make sure that when you ask them to take a political risk, that you have thought out the benefits of taking the risk that will exist even if the bill fails. Like, you're starting to build momentum for an idea that could pass in a future legislative session, or you might introduce them to a new constituency that they didn't have before, or they will have political assets and allies that they wouldn't have otherwise have had, things like that. So when they go to their legislators and, it's determined whether or not they've gained or lost influence by the risk that they took on your behalf, they will be able to tell them in the legislative lunchroom that, well, there's this group of people that I'm working with. I think they're up and comers, and they have some ideas, and maybe we'll be able to do something in the next session that builds on this. I mean, that's something that is said all the time. Or they can, if they're left alone, they may not take the risk, and if they do take the risk and fail, they're probably not going to be very likely to be eager to take another appointment from you in the future when you ask for one. So you just have to sort of put yourself in their shoes and try and have their back and help them, in some cases, grow a spine to do the right thing, and have their back to reward them for having taken the risk when they have done that. Any questions or comments at this point?
That makes me think about, because to me, ethics
Mhm.
and is extremely important. Even for myself, it's more important to do the right thing. Sometimes it's hard to know what the right thing is. And so
Sure.
that's the slowdown. But I believe in statesmanship for the good of the people. I know it's idealistic, but I feel like if you give up your ideals and compromise, all I'm doing is falling into the pit with them.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to hear what this is saying, and I understand that, but it's like, if the building of the momentum is to actually, like you just said it before you asked for questions, was to encourage them to do the right thing,
Yeah.
and to help them to see that doing the right thing is valuable. But I think we're at a place where it used to be more culturally understood about doing the right thing. And I think we've gone through so many years now of tearing that down to do what's
Mhm.
expedient to get power. And this shouldn't, in this country, it's not supposed to be about you having power.
Mhm.
It's about us working together to do what's good for freedom and for the citizenship. And so I'm just processing all that, just trying to
Sure.
set in perspective.
If it helps you, did you ever see the movie or read the book, The Shawshank Redemption?
No.
Yeah, this was about a guy who was wrongly convicted for a crime, and he had to escape. And to escape, he basically crawled through this sewer hole, or the sewer pipe. And but he was right; he was innocent, and he was trying to reclaim his freedom and destroy corruption. And basically, to paraphrase, he said, this guy crawled through a pipe full of sewage and came out clean on the other side.
Uh-huh.
That's what we as citizen lobbyists have to do.
Mhm.
Now, I think that most legislators want to do the right thing, but sometimes the desire to do the right thing gets overwhelmed by these other concerns, their political self-preservation, and so on. There is no need for us to get into the muck, but we have to be cognizant of those impulses that they have and play to them. We can say, look, I want you to do the right thing, but doing the right thing will not destroy your political career. Doing the right thing will help your political career. If you do the right thing, you will not be alone. I will be supporting you and our group will be supporting you. And not only that, but we'll support you on some of these other bills where we have common cause. Taking that kind of an approach
Right.
accommodates the weaknesses that legislators have ethically, but it doesn't compromise your ethical position.
Yes.
And that is how you crawl through the muck and come out clean on the other side. And you have to always do that. Citizen activists, one thing they have in their favor is, a lot of moral high ground. They're not professionals. They're not being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by special interests. They have authenticity on their side, and that can't be compromised ever under any circumstances. One thing I encourage people to do is form a lobbying team. I've often formed 3-person lobbying teams. When you meet with a legislator, and we will be doing meetings again soon, have 3 people on your team, no more than 3, because you don't want it to be like you're ganging up on a legislator. But 3, 1 shows that you're organized. It shows that you're a group. One of you should be the spokesperson, the person that interacts with the legislator. And everyone will speak with the legislator somewhat, exchange pleasantries and so forth. But there should be one lead person that takes point in interacting with the legislator. The second person should have everything on hand, have one of those little folder files where they have necessary papers. So if the legislator asks questions and the answers are available, that person is familiar with those documents and can pull up the answers as much as possible. And the third person should be somebody to take notes. I don't encourage recording because that sometimes puts legislators on edge, but somebody who just takes notes. If the legislator has questions that you don't have the answers to, this person takes that down. Or if the legislator commits to something, the person takes that down. If you have a team like that, it is very helpful, it is very effective, and the legislators see that you're organized and you know what you're doing and you're acting professionally, even if you're not a professional. So that is a little tip that I have found extremely helpful. Again, any experienced salesperson will be quick to provide you with the following quote: people always buy benefits. They don't buy features, they buy benefits. One exception to that is computer nerds. Sometimes they like to know how many terabytes something has. They don't focus on the benefit, but most people will focus on the benefit. So when you talk to the legislator, talk about the benefits of supporting your position. We've gone over that a little bit already, or quite a lot already, actually, but that will help. The next thing is they might not eat the whole banana, is what I have in the document. They might not like your whole idea, but they might like parts of your idea. If you have a bill for school choice and accountability, they may not go for the whole thing, like vouchers, but they might expand options for charter schools, or they might support merit pay for teachers, or they might do this. They might take a piece of what you have. If they do, encourage them to do more, but take it and run. Take it and run and go forward. Get the gains that you can get with the environment that you have. Try to put together coalitions of legislators who support what you can get, and figure on, if you have a significant change in policy, figure on getting little pieces of it, but getting the whole thing over multiple legislative sessions. Sometimes you get lucky and get big reforms right off the bat, but that very, very rarely happens. Just like a long bomb very, very rarely works in football. Take the parts that the legislator likes and move forward on that basis. Also, keep your cool, stay professional. I've seen citizen lobbyists become impatient with legislators and start yelling at them and calling them traitor and all of these other things. If you do, you will get a reputation among other legislators as a nut. Legislative aides will hear about it and will probably exaggerate it when they have lunch with other legislative aides, where they exchange stories. These things will never help you. And then all of a sudden you'll find that you can't get an appointment anywhere, that nobody takes you seriously. Never lose your cool. Sometimes legislators lose their cool. That works against them, but never, ever lose your cool, even if the legislator loses their cool. If the legislator starts yelling at you, and sometimes they do, not very often, and not the best of them, but when that happens, say, well, I'm sorry, Senator or Representative, I didn't mean to upset you. Maybe I can meet with you or your staff some other time. This doesn't look like it's a good time, and I didn't want to upset you. Show grace, even when you feel like you have the moral high ground. Always show grace. It always pays off in the end, because if you do, you will get a reputation as somebody who's reasonable, somebody who can be worked with. And if the other side ever needs someone to represent your position on things, you're going to be the one they call. You will be more likely to get the appointments in the future if you are, what legislators like to say, if you're predictable activists, you're not someone who could pop off randomly at different times. These are all sort of hints, and they do not guarantee that you will be politically successful. But if you observe the things that are in this training, if you review the training document, does everybody here know how to get the training document associated with this particular topic?
I think
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, okay, go ahead and download that. If you review that and maybe go over this recording another time, and if you have questions afterwards, just contact me via email or voicemail, whatever you want. You will have more success than if you didn't use any of these techniques. Are there any questions or comments at this point? No? Okay, has this been helpful to you?
Yes, it helps. I think it's kind of like that. My first comment was that it's affirming what has been found in practice to be effective.
Mhm.
And that's what I was looking for. And at this point, I'm looking to I'm a precinct committee person. And so
Mhm.
even within our own body or in our local county politics or city politics, it's a matter of just besides, for me, like biblical standards of communication are going to be my go-to, my strong point, in which all of this aligns with that, as long as we keep the ethics in it. And I think that it's helpful to know that on the front line, we're living in a world where there's a lot of different views and a lot of different perspectives, and it's trying to understand how we can reach a communication level with people that we don't think alike at all.
Mhm.
And how do we start conversation? Because the only ones I feel that they're trying to use the yelling technique and the bully technique to overpower you. And I feel like as an American, I want to protect the good traits that we have
Mhm.
had as an American, that were constitutionally provided. It was a gift to us. And on our watch, we're letting it go if we don't take a stand. But it's like, how do we stand against the yelling and the bullying to make headway, to turn the ship in the right direction?
Well, remember that, we see these marble buildings and these offices and these great seals of, government on the walls behind, daises where hearings are held. And it's important to remember that all of these are symbols that have no value in and of themselves. They have value that is derived from, merit and commonly held beliefs. And we have to remember that all of it belongs to us.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't belong to them. And by them, I mean those who are in the government class. They're citizens too, and they have the same rights as everybody else. But all of this belongs to us. It doesn't belong to them. And when you know that, it does give confidence going in. How about you, Carolyn? Has this been helpful to you at all?
Yeah, it's actually been very helpful. I've thought of some things while you've been talking. Just maybe if you could give maybe a little bit of an idea on just locally in our community becoming a more prevalent activist or things like that? Like what kind of community outreach or organizations or things like that would you recommend that we try to,
Sure.
get involved with so that we can actually be recognized as someone who's, a community opinion leader?
Sure. I'm going to answer that in just a second, but I forgot one thing. How do you start conversations? Kathy asked a little while ago. I'll tell you, you may remember Brad Avakian. He's a former labor commissioner. He was a state senator. He ran for Secretary of State against Dennis Richardson unsuccessfully. I used to lobby him. And one thing I noticed is, I was an Eagle Scout back when I was a kid. I guess once you're an Eagle Scout, you're always an Eagle Scout. But I saw when I was in his office that he was an Eagle Scout too. And, I talked to him about scouting. And he talked about scouting and we got along. And based on that, we had a rapport that had nothing to do with politics. And based on that, we agreed to have breakfast. And when we had breakfast and we talked about, the election bill I referred to and a few other issues, he didn't agree with me on everything, but we found common cause on a few topics. So when you meet with somebody, look around at the walls, if they have frames or awards or family pictures or something like that. And if you can find something to connect with on a personal level, that can sometimes break the ice and lower some walls and lower some barriers. I wanted to get that out, but Carolyn, refresh me. What was your question again?
Just within our own community. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that question.
Yeah, that's right. About becoming an opinion leader. I was a member of the Hillsborough Optimist Club. I was a member for several years, and then I was president for a year. Or if you're a member of the Optimists or the Rotarians or the Lions Club or any of those animals, or if you're a soccer coach or you're a member of your school's PTC or whatever it is, most people who are active politically have some connection with the community. And we actually have, if you go to the training tab on westernlibertynetwork.org and scroll down, you will see there is a training document on how to become an opinion leader in your community, and formal opinion leader in your community. And so there are a lot of ways that you can get involved. One thing I would recommend is if you're trying to improve your skills and want to be involved in the community, and you don't have time to join all kinds of organizations, you can hit multiple birds with one stone if you join a local Toastmasters group. A lot of Toastmasters groups do public service, but they're also designed to help you and the other members of the Toastmasters group improve on their speaking skills and their organizational skills. So that's one I would always recommend. And I'm going to have a Toastmaster on as a guest trainer in the very near future. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Is there anything else today? Okay, that's the training I have for you. I always try to get this in under an hour, so it doesn't take too much of our Saturdays, but I'm glad that you were able to sign on and participate. And I want to also thank all those who will watch this recording later, and hope that you will join us next Saturday for another training. We'll have it on our website and email probably by Tuesday. So anyway, God bless and take care.
Thank you
Thank you
for your time to this and helping to grow us.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.